Hey, it's Andre. It's time for another Friday Flying Update. May the 4th be with you. May the 4th. We all know Darth Vader rules. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on to the subject at hand. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about. Gee, it's like EDF crazy time on this channel, but that's the way my summer is going. The footage you just saw was me building up the FMS Yak-130. Overall, it wasn't a bad build. I had one or two little hiccups along the way, and that was things like the zip ties were too tight on the control line, the servo wires going into the back of the aircraft. So when I went to put there's two servos on the back of the jet for the elevator, and when I went to put them in, I couldn't tug the line, so that turned into like an hour extra of work to get everything to work out nicely. I actually do have the build video and I have to edit it, but we'll get to that later on. So this aircraft is ready. I've already checked out my CG. All I have to do now is program in my rates and some of the trim on the radio, and it is all set to go. And you know what? It is not a bad looking aircraft at all. I have stated that I see a lot of F-18 in this thing. It's like an F-18 with a single vertical stab, you know, and it's got that nice slick look, you know, and I'm going to be really excited to see how it flies and how it performs over time. I do have an 8-channel FrSky receiver in there, and the reason I went with 8 versus 6 is on the 7th channel I've actually slaved it to control the nose gear on my slider, which is just a nicer way to do it, so you're not, you know, pushing that servo around as you're dialing in rudder. And then on the runway, when you're taxiing around, you've got I feel almost a finite control because you can just turn it as you want. It's just a tip I saw online, and we saw that with like things like the Bushmill to avoid burning it out. In the belly, it will be flying, of course, the 6S 3300 60C. We'll talk about batteries too in a second here as well. And to monitor the batteries, I will be running my FrSky LiPo monitor. This is the mini, so it does not have the little screen. So you have to do a lot more program. Well, not the same amount of programming on the FrSky radio, my Tyrannus. I can monitor cell by cell, which is not too much of a... There's no benefit to it. What I like seeing is my total voltage, and it reads out the lowest voltage. So I have to have that on a throw switch, so it tells me what the... You know, I'm just calling for it, and it'll tell me. That way I'm not sitting there listening to it the whole time. The only other thing I'm going to learn how to do next is programming an alarm, so when I do get too low on that value, it will automatically start screaming at me and tell me to land. And the advantage to that is, as I move through the jets, we're having a pretty significant debate battery-wise as far as what the consensus is. You know, I've got friends who say light with a high kV value, you know, the lightest battery you can get in there, but super punchy, or a bigger size battery like the 6200, which is something that will fit in this aircraft, and 40C. And you know, you're not going, it's not a 60C, so you may not have the same punch, but you've got the flight time. But the sacrifice is it's a little heavier, so you've got to be a little careful, a little bit more careful on landing. So I don't know what the correct answer is. And it's funny because like people I regard really highly in the flying, you know, the people I talk to, you know, the thought process is polar opposite. So it's fascinating. I almost want to pick up, you know, a 4,000 set and a 5,000 set and then this big sucker and fly them back to back to back and see what I prefer. So what the correct answer is, I don't know. Now, speaking of the BA Hawk from Freewing, I actually had it out and it's apart because I was putting in that reinforcement kit that Motion RC sent out from Freewing, and that is basically reinforcing the joint point where the two halves of the fuselage meet. So there's one on the inside and one on there. Real simple job, scuff it up. I used some foam tack and got it in there. Now, I fly off a gravel strip, so the possibility of a rock intake is huge. People have taken them on the runways, they've taken them on the you know, in the parking lot just taxiing around. So I went in and put some same stuff I'd used in the F-16. Look at that. and just put some mesh down. So that's a little bit of foam tack, a little bit of hot glue to hold it all in so nothing peels up. Try and minimize the airflow, any airflow disruptions. But that's solid. You know, I'm not going to take any rocks, and I'm definitely not obstructing my airflow. So that's really nice. So this airplane is almost ready to go. I'm again running a 6-channel receiver in there, so that's all bound up. I just have to program in my rates, just like this guy, and it's ready to go. And of course, I'll have battery telemetry as well. Any of my bigger EDFs running the 6S packs, I've decided that it makes sense, and that's nice. So you can just swap this guy between the aircraft. I haven't even changed any of the plugs. I'm still running my adapters, which are the EC5s to XT60, and if I do get some lighter size packs, I will definitely be trying with the Hawk. This aircraft, this is the heaviest pack, and that's why I picked it up. This also works really well in the Grand Tundra. So as I scale through my aircraft and deciding whenever I do buy a battery, I try and put it through multiple airplanes. Speaking of EDFs, of course, the Vampire will come out, and you know, I'm down to 3 right now because there's no F-16, and eventually I hope to build the flight test Viggen. So of course this is 4S. The Viggen will be 4S as well from the F-16's power point. But there's 3 EDFs ready to go for the season, which is going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of things I'm going to have fun with, I finally got the Durafly Tomahawk all set up. I had some issues the time I went to fly with it, so it's all been rectified, so I can run my 6S, my 4S 1000s, or the which are the Graphenes, as well as the Graphene 1300 3Ss, and same thing with the Nanotech. So this little guy is all set, ready to go, and I'm quite excited to see how it does FPV wise, because it's got some of my better FPV kit in it. So excited. I'm almost interested. I would almost be curious to try some of those smaller, lower C-rated multi-star batteries to see how they do. But I got a feeling this thing is more of a turn and burn kind of aircraft. And okay, I full on admit I am a terrible, terrible wing builder. So the TBRC Apex V2 doesn't look too bad. This is that LePage glue that is actually specified by Anthony, who's the builder of these things. And I mean, the spar design on this thing is phenomenal because, you know, it's very minimal. Just 2 in the back and there. So what I need to do is go through and just fill in some of those gaps so I have perfect, you know, coverage. And then it's laminate, put the spars on, and sorting out the spars, dig in my servo holes, and this thing is, you know, almost ready to go. Do some cutting. So we're close. If the weather is junk this weekend, which is probably going to be, these wings will get done. Now, unfortunately, the glue might be really good and strong and amazing. It looks terrible on a white wing. So I am going to fill all these gaps in. I'm going to do some sanding, and I still got some cutting. You can see the lines. Laminate, put in my servos, put in the control surfaces and everything. Now, the redeeming factor in this build, it might be ugly as anything, but it's strong, is the fact that a little tip from Sean from Defiant Wings is to use some monocoat on it. And you know, you put that over top of the laminate, and you've got a beautiful looking aircraft with a consistent color. I'll put some decals on her, and Bob's your uncle, you know. So yeah, might not look as good. I mean, Ruben's sweep wing design using Gorilla Glue is really awesome, and that's probably what I'm going to use the white stuff just to fill in some of these gaps and just get it all done. I still got to put the bay in and everything, but these guys will be ready very soon, and I'm looking forward to it. The black one, the Apex, I will use 3S 800s, and this guy will be, for now, 1300s. Eventually, when I have the right motor set up and everything, I will step it up to 4S, but for now, I'm going to get used to it on 3S and have some fun. The only other thing that showed up this week, sadly, is a small brushed ESC, and that is for that truck, which I'm in the middle of converting over, or have converted over. The stock radio was terrible, the steering was terrible, so it has a full servo in it, and it's running right now. That's my old race one out of the Corrali, but it doesn't have a reverse, so you get into a tight situation, you can't back up. So for like $8 from Banggood, here's a little ESC, a little brushed ESC. So looking forward to putting that in, having some fun, run this thing on a 2S500 or those those laptop cells that Martin made for me, they fit into the battery bay really good. So it's going to be great to have this thing all set up and running, because it's a fun little indoor beastie to just chase the cat around, you know. And then I've got all the other ones for outdoor. Told you it's going to be a long one. Okay, now I've got one more thing I got to bring out. Need to clear the bench, so give me 2 seconds. We're back, and look at this thing. This is mental. It's the wings aren't assembled, like they're not joined in the middle, they're just taped. I still got to put all the back end of it, and yeah, this is a really big airplane. I wasn't really expecting the pure scale, and you don't start realizing it until you're assembling the fuselage and you go to put apart, and you can't even sit on the bench. You got to come down. No, it's not perfect. No, it's not, you know, the best looking thing in the world. But wow. I'm going to get some light CA. I want to go in through some of the steams and everything and just double everything up and make sure it's all perfect. So the game plan for this aircraft is quite simple. Get it done. Fly it, prove that it's it's airworthy and reliable, and then go from there. And if it does survive and it does seem like it's thriving and going to be well, then I'll get in there, skim coat, and just set it all up and, you know, sand it down and put some paint on it and make it look gorgeous. But to look at it, okay, 3D planes, plain and simple, something of this scale, it will always cost you more than buying a kit. Plain and simple. And I knew that going into this aircraft, between the motor and the retracts and the cost of the materials, the file, the print time, the build time, and all this. But this is an adventure for me to try. And, you know, it's kudos to the guys that designed it. It's, you know, it's pretty good. It's obviously got a lot more beef in it than the smaller one that I crashed in 10 seconds. You know, like the fuselage is way bigger, and they stated that the advantages of the structure is just there. So, you know, and I glued myself to it a few times doing it. So, I mean, I tried to make the seams as best as possible. But like I said, a little bit of filler, a little bit of sanding, and that'll all look like it's designed. And, you know, I'll do the weathering. I have no idea what colors I'm going to paint it. I may, you know, go nuts and have some fun with it, but don't worry about that. So the game plan is to keep designing it. Yep, we got a little pilot. He's very un-British. I don't care. I'm Canadian. It's a bear. I suppose a moose would work, right? But we're going to get it all set up. The motor fits in there. The CG is forward, which is great to see versus the other one. And so next step really is to do all the control surfaces and start dropping in all the servos. What was really impressive, as I ran the pieces together, I was running my piece of metal through the servo holes, and the printer had successfully printed the gaps, so those servo lines can run all the control surface lines can run all the way through. So it's going to come together. It's terrifyingly awesome. It's really big. I mean, the wing is huge, and I'm not even got the end pieces on it yet. So it is a lot of airplane. So I'll have to make the covers for when I transport it so it's nice and safe and doesn't melt like the previous aircraft. But like I said, the next stage is to finish the build, then go over all the seams so I make sure everything is nice and tight and secure and sturdy, and just make sure the whole aircraft is airworthy. So yeah, it's going to be quite the adventure. I'll probably run my lighter 6S or 2 3S batteries together just to, you know, just to not to risk it. Of course, leave that. The running question I had from a lot of people was, what do I do afterwards? Will I continue flying it even after Flight Fest if it survives? And the answer is yes. Long term, I would like to see it survive and fly. If it doesn't, I will be looking for a project to put that really big honking motor into and see if I can move a lot of the landing gear over. So till then, moving on, moving forward, keep on building, keep on plugging. So hopefully we get out flying this weekend. Saturday, who knows? We're in a bit of a thunderstorm and wind warning for overnight, so I don't know what the conditions are going to be like tomorrow. I have all my batteries charged and ready to go, so I have a variety of aircraft I can test. Sunday morning, we will have a podcast at 9 o'clock. I think it's supposed to be 9 o'clock, and we're probably going to be talking from Alpha, from Motion RC, because Chris just received some 64mm EDFs. Yeah! So there we go. Well, that was a bit of a long update, but hey, well worth it. Thank you for watching. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Hello. Have a fantastic weekend. See you later.